Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 6, 2022, at approximately 5:08 a.m. PST. Well, things are progressing nicely. I've said when I was looking at this, okay, let's try that again. This is a live recording, so any hiccups that you see, any stumbles, what have you, all I do at the end of the video is go back, make sure I got the date right, and then carry on with the day. As you've seen in the last couple of days, I've made a mistake with that, but this is the beginning of the year. I was sent back here for one reason. The primary reason I came back to this world at this time was to pass on a very simple message. And that is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, there will certainly be some exceptions. Okay, but that being said, this is not a one person job. This is a task that is going to require all of us, all of you. Okay, you're no different than I am, you know. Well, there's differences. Okay, there's differences in everybody. But the reality is, we're all starting at the same place. However, we got to where we are, that's where we're starting. That is what makes us who we are today. Okay, now we have an interesting little situation going on. We have an opportunity that is not exactly unprecedented, but for this generation, for this level of civilization, at this time, this is our go to. We have the opportunity to shift the direction that the world is going in. But it's up to you. It's up to every single one of us to decide whether we're going to let this chaos continue, or whether we're going to work together to make this a better world. That's your call. Now, I can tell you what I see as being required, what I'm being told is required, but it's up to you to make the changes. Now, that's a pretty big job. And that said, everybody has their own little tasks. Okay, in my case, I've got some pretty big tasks involved. Okay, for me, the biggest personal task I've got going on, or one of anyway, the biggest project is my writing. Now, I was saying yesterday, I think I put it into a separate post, but I'm geared up at this point based on writing only 3 pages a day. Okay, I'm on track to get the Return to Paradise, the final book in a trilogy, out into print by the end of this year. That's at only writing the original writings at 3 pages a day to result in another novel close to 400 pages in length. Now, with that in mind, okay, I designed it at 3, but yesterday I managed to get 10 written. So, as we can see, the fluctuation is a little odd. I'm hoping to have the initial book written by May 13th. Okay, but that's going to take me a lot of work. I've got a lot to do on it. Now, that is a small that's a big project for me personally. Okay, but the bigger challenge at this point is this issue of how do we get our own senses running properly, and how do we bypass this fear that is being propagated all over the place. Now, this is where things get a little dicey. I will tell you, okay, I'm not asking you to change your religion, whatever your religion is. Every one of the religions that I've looked at, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, the Church of Satan, the Muslims, the Hindu, Muslim, Hindu. I don't know the appropriate names for all the religions. Okay. I've looked into a lot of them. Even when you look into things like the witches' covens, various Wiccan practices, they all teach the same thing. Okay, and I know you'll find that hard to believe with what's been propagated. Okay, virtually every one of them says the same thing. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay, now, being raised Christian myself, and believing wholeheartedly in both God and Jesus, and you can call him whatever name you want. I also believe in Gaia, Mother Earth, Esau, you know, depending on who you talk to. I believe in what people and what the North American Indians refer to as the grandfathers or the Great Thunderbird. There are a lot of names for the same thing. Okay, take the important part of religion, of spirituality from a community standpoint, is religion and spirituality explain the inexplicable until science can figure it out. Now, this is where we run into a problem. The religions, on the whole, are propagating a staggering amount of fear. They house it and say, God loves everybody, but don't you dare cross him because he's vindictive. Rest assured, God is not vindictive. He really is not here to hurt anybody. Okay, any more than somebody that sets up an ant farm when they're a child is there to set up an ant farm and destroy the ants. They don't set them up to blast the ants with magnifying lenses. They don't set them up to drown the ants and see what happens. They just don't. Okay. And God has no interest in wiping out this planet. Sometimes I question whether mankind does, but I can chalk that often up into absolute, what I call true ignorance. Okay. Take whatever religion you follow. Keep following it, providing it is not directly, intentionally hurting other people. If you're being told by your religious leaders that hurting other people for any reason is a bad move. Okay, if anybody is telling you, if any religious leader that you're talking to says go out and hurt somebody because for whatever reason they're different color, they're a different religion, it doesn't matter. If they're saying go hurt somebody else, you may want to question what you're listening to. God has no interest in wiping out any one type of people or any one group. Okay. Any more than mankind seems to have any interest in wiping out any one race. Now, there are people that do, but what the people that are interested, that have a massive prejudice, are dealing with is for generations, adults have taught kids to be afraid. That's because adults have taught adults to be afraid. Now, fear is a good thing. It stops you from doing real stupid things to yourself. But it's a lousy way to build a society. And we have to work together to change the way that is going. Now, it's up to you whether you do or not. But if the religion or the spiritual guides you're following are encouraging you to work with each other, to accept other people as is, providing, again, they are not deliberately hurting people. Okay, we have to focus on the other emotion than fear. There's only two functional emotions. You have fear on the one side, you have love on the other. Okay, but the two of them are necessary to keep in balance. And when we're living life based on fear, who's going to rip me off? Who's going to wipe out who's going to steal the stuff that I possess? Who is going to stop me from enjoying my life? Okay, providing I am not hurting somebody else. We've got to get away from this idea of living in fear. We have to realize that Mother Nature doesn't live in fear. Mother Nature, whether we're talking natural disasters, well, humans call them disasters. Mother Nature calls them, oh, I'm sorry, I'm breathing. Okay. You have to realize the elements don't care who you are. You can have as much money on the planet as you can possibly put together. If you're outside and it rains, you're going to get wet. Okay. If you put your hand on a fire or on a burner It doesn't matter whether you believe in fire or not, and whether you believe in heat. You're going to get burned. Okay. And I will tell you, I don't care who you're sleeping with. If you step off a balcony, the odds are gravity is going to play havoc with your body when you get to the ground. Now, the fall won't kill you, but that landing is going to really screw up your circulation. Now, this is what we have to realize, is that it is time to start working together. Okay. Now, I know wholeheartedly you can do it. I've seen this done before. We went through a staggering problem 700 years ago, roughly, when what people today are calling the Black Death. Okay, also known as the bubonic plague. It is not something that mankind can outrun with medical experimentation. They're trying to outrun mutations. Well, mankind hasn't figured out, apparently, that mutations happen on an exponential level. Mankind is mutating as we speak. And this is one of the problems with trying to build a vaccine. They're trying to build a vaccine built on the double helix. Well, the reality of things is the triple helix has the answers. It's not a bunch of junk DNA. But number one, while they're using outdated technology, they're trying to adapt a vaccine for a race that is already exponentially different on the subquantum level than what it was a year ago. We have to realize when you get your head on straight and you realize your body, anything that your body can contracts, your body actually can deal with. However, it does require modern medicine in many cases. If your mind is not developed to the point that you can avoid it, okay. Modern medicine. Remember what I mentioned about this issue of science of religion is it explains the inexplicable. It accomplishes the inexplicable until science can figure it out. Now that's going to take trial and error in a lot of cases because it's easier, it seems, to fix something or to alter something once you understand how it works. Well, the reality is, regardless of what people are telling you, take a look at the reality of what's happening today. People don't understand entirely what causes earthquakes. Have you noticed that they haven't been able to stop earthquakes? Mankind has not been able to predict how a tornado is going to react or what path it's going to take or how it ends up taking out one house and not the next. Science has not evolved to that point. Now they are playing around with technologies that will lead to that understanding. But for the moment, understand the idea of separating yourself by a functional distance. 6 feet works. You could go into absolute panic and go, okay, everybody, make sure you stay at least 30 feet away from each other. You're going to have a problem with society. But unless this starts shifting gears and people start working together, regardless of the income levels, regardless of your belief structure, we have to realize skin color is not a determinant as to whether or not you're worth paying attention to in any community. Okay, now we complicate that when we add the neat little problem of this. Okay, we're dealing with humans for the most part. But bear in mind, like I said, I'm a spiritual guide. These are the tools I personally work with. These are the philosophies that I live by. And on the plus side, aside from a major heart attack, about 10 years ago now, and a rather annoying stroke that I'm still dealing with from 3 years ago, I haven't had a cold, a flu, nothing. Okay. I don't have the time for it and I don't see the point in suffering. But I figured out how to get my body to actually modify itself. Okay, when we realize that this is something that is possible, I mean, there's a cute way of putting it. All that I do, all that I do, you can do as well. Okay. If I can avoid getting sick by simply going, I've got no functional interest in it. Now, this does not mean I'm going to walk into a cesspool to test it. Okay, I remember years ago there was a religious leader over in Africa somewhere that was so convinced that his religion, that his belief was superior to everybody's, he literally, in front of his entire tribe, had a Westerner come in, and this shaman, literally said, "My God will protect me so well, even I cannot even be harmed by bullets." So he brought a guy in that was willing to do it. Okay, and in front of his entire tribe, he goes, "My God will protect me. This is how powerful my God's magic is. You can shoot me and it will not hurt me." Well, he had the entire tribe convinced to the point that they let him do that. And this guy come up, pointed the gun at him, pointed at his chest, and pulled the trigger. Amazingly enough, that's a great thought when you go, "My God is that powerful, he'll protect me." There's no question. If you believe in a God, it will help you draw on strength, but it will not protect you from stupidity. They buried the shaman. For some reason, his belief didn't quite work as well as he would have liked. Can't imagine what the problem was. But we have to realize that fear is not going to get us anywhere functionally useful. Okay, unless you're trying to destroy civilization, at which point you're going down a beautiful path. It worked in Rome. Fear absolutely decimated the world. I mean, you can build on fear, absolutely, but it won't last. Okay, we know this. Sooner or later, the courageous few that hide in the shadows will come out and set things back on a different balance. Now, this said, we cannot go around discussing, pushing the idea of overturning any government at all. Okay, it has to be a thought process that shifts. If you want a real good rendition of how that works, I believe it was Orson Welles wrote a story back in the 50s or the 60s called Animal Farm. If you haven't read it, read it. It lays it out beautifully. But it is time we start looking in the mirror and going, okay, what is so different about you as compared to your neighbor? I met a gentleman the other day. Okay, just yesterday, quite literally. Now, people talk about, the immigrants are causing a problem. I'll tell you, this guy, when I met him, he's now, he's now here, and I don't mean in my room. I met him just the other day. He's new to Canada. Okay, he comes from a foreign country, and yeah, he's absolutely got an accent, but he also has a genuine personality. The man is not functionally different from anybody that I've run into. Now, thus far, I live in an apartment, and thus far, I've now got an Arabian living next door to me, originated in Arabia. Now, understand, my heritage is Scottish and Welsh. Okay, I'm Canadian, but my heritage is Scottish. Most of you have a heritage that dates back into a foreign country. Now, the so-called First Nations, and yeah, I put it that way quite intentionally. Okay, they have a heritage that, for as long as has been viably recorded, their heritage is here. This does not make them any better or any worse than anybody else. Now, we're taught about fear. Oh, that person is a different color. Fear them. Stay away from them. I got news for you. The diseases running around this world are not paying any attention to what color your skin is. Okay. They're not paying any attention at all to who you vote for. And they certainly don't care what gender you are. Now, well, that depends. There are a couple of illnesses that are only affecting certain genders, but they're not paying attention to pocketbook size. And, I've heard people say, oh, I can't get ill because I've got too much money. Well, rest assured, the reason I don't get ill is not because of the fact that I've got a whole pile of money. It's because of the fact that, well, frankly, in my opinion, I don't have time to be that ill. I got a lot of things I desire to do. I've got this one major task that I was asked to put forth. Okay, and that is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, people keep pushing the idea of when are we getting, when is this COVID thing going to end? When are we going to get full disclosure? When is the government going to come out and straighten this out? They're not. It's going to be people, because you got to remember, take the government issue out of it, and every member in the government, every member in any society, any member of any political group or any financial group, they're all people. They're all the same as you and I. When they get tired, they go to sleep. When they get hungry, they eat. When they're thirsty, they drink. Okay. And rest assured, alcoholism, for instance, is not a privilege of only the wealthy or only the natives. Okay, the North American Indians. Alcoholism does not care what your heritage is; it will hit you just as badly. It's a dis-ease, and this world is running rampant with dis-ease. It is being pushed to believe that we are in the end times. You're only in the end times if you permit the negative things to continue happening. If you stand there and you believe and you take to heart the world's going to end. Well, I like the way one person put it to me. The world will end. Absolutely. By scientific calculation, in about 5 billion years. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that's pretty far down the road. In my case, I'm likely to be here, but not likely in this corporeal form. I figure right now, well, I'm 58. So if I pull off another 40 years, I've done well. I have every intention of aiming still at seeing the 22nd century, which, by the way, means I got to pull another 80 years. I've got to get to be 139 to make that goal. See, when I was a kid, I asked for three things: peace of mind. So far, not so much, although it's getting closer. Okay, I asked to get off this mud ball. Okay, now I should have been a little bit more clear because I have been off planet. You don't have to believe me. I'm certainly not about to try and prove it to you. Okay, I deal with aliens and alien technologies on a regular basis. So did I get off the planet? Certainly, but I should have been more clear and told them I didn't want to come back. Okay. The third one was to see the 22nd century in a functionally viable body. In this functionally viable body. Yes, I've got a bad leg. I've talked about my heart issues and what have you, but I'm still functioning. Okay. So I've got about 80 years to try and pull off here. Now, whether I'll make it, I don't know, but I'm going to do what I can, which is a really neat concept when you think I don't go to doctors. They want me to. They really do. But they can't keep up with my healing rate anyway. And since I've already done the lab rat thing, not overly interested. But we have to, as a society, it is absolutely imperative we get away from this idea of who is better than who. You're all of equal value. This little sign over here that says, I am worth it, is absolutely imperative that you get that through your head. It doesn't matter how you got to where you are. You are the way you are. Okay, there are people out there, They say there's somebody for everybody, and there is. If I can find a partner that I'm content to be with, or more to the point, if I can find a partner that is content to be with me, then frankly, virtually anybody can. Okay. But it does rely on treating each other as you desire to be treated. There's only three laws that I follow. Okay. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Now, if you take a look at the laws that you're following, okay, whether they are written, such as traffic laws, whether they are spiritual guidelines, whether they are support group guidelines, take a look at them. And I do believe what you will find is that they all fit into those three. If you find one that doesn't, absolutely drop me a line. Put it and mention it in the comments below. Okay, because I'm looking for that one variable. Thus far, I've not found a law anywhere or a guideline anywhere that does not fit in those three. What I have found is that we have to start dealing with people as equals. The only reason you should be looking down on anybody is if you're taller than they are, or if you're at a higher vantage point. That's the only functional reason to look down on anybody at all, no matter what their age. Okay. If we cannot get past this idea that somebody is better than we are, or we are better than somebody else, we're going to have a problem. Society is going to continue on a downhill slide. And frankly, I don't blame any individual, I don't blame any group, but the people that have the greatest access are the ones that are leading spiritual groups, your church leaders, your spiritual guides, your coven leaders, the lawmakers. These are the people that have the biggest impact. Your media have the ability to make the biggest impact. Okay, and it is not any individual, because every individual has the ability to affect the people directly around them. Remember the old saying, let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. If you're perfect, that is absolutely fantastic. I'm not perfect. Okay, and like I've said before, don't take my word for things. Check your own sources. Check your own facts. But if you haven't followed the guidelines I've been working with, okay, that I've been laying out, it may be, and all I'm doing is relaying what I've been told. If you haven't given them a shot, shift your thinking a little and give it a shot. If your method isn't working, it's time to try something new. And for pity's sake, if you're striving to do something you haven't done before, talk to somebody who has done it successfully. Now, I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.